Pennsylvania, and then at the Pentagon. And then all those heroes, all those first responders from fire to police to even FBI and all those hospitals, everyone who did what they could to save so many lives and to help so many people. I listened to a great story today from ESPN of an athlete from Boston College, Sean. He played lacrosse, he played hockey, but he played those sports at Boston College. He was working on Wall Street, but Sean, in the end, he wanted to be a firefighter. And around that same time when he's decided I'm going to start working for the New York FD, the 9/11 happened, and he saved a lot of lives. He ended up passing while he was trying to save those lives. So I'm just really grateful for this day that we can remember all those heroes. And I do love how I think it started with President Bush, and then President Obama kind of made it official, where this day has not only become isn't only a day of remembrance, but a day of service. Sean, I was driving home from doing some service at the Mountain View Cemetery out there in close to ISU. And a lot of us, we were just kind of cleaning up gravestones and raking leaves and just kind of cleaning things up, right? Well, I'm driving home, Sean, and I saw groups of people at a kind of a park over by Simplot. They were raking leaves and they had trash bags and cleaning things up. I saw people over at a recycling center clearly doing some service. And then I get in my neighborhood and there were some kids. They were spraying for weeds, man. And I got in my car and I said, "Hey guys, what you doing? Oh, we're getting the weeds out, and we're there's a lot of spiders. We're killing the spiders in Mrs. Whatever's house." And it's just like, man, I'm just made me super grateful for this day that we not only remember those whose lives were lost and all our first responding heroes, but it's now a day of service where we kind of give back and make this awesome country a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great time for those kind of things, right? What I've noticed kind of recently coming back at school is, people doing acts of kindness and things, a lot more of like holding doors or let me help you to kids they don't even know, like strange, kids that aren't friends and things like that. And so like service and, acts of kindness and things like that are very good. And, a lot of our, East Idaho athletic teams do a ton of service things too. And that's the one thing as a coach is I'm big on trying to get some service or something to help the community, either, just, getting old rackets and get them to people, but like doing those things just really help out and bring us back to where I think, culturally, communally, everyone's going to be a lot better. You're going to have a few more smiles, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, 100%. And honestly, really grateful for sports, which also gives us those smiles, and it's a chance, at least for us, to give back to our community here on IdahoSports.com and to shout out these awesome athletes and teams who are working really hard and give us something fun, even a distraction sometimes to a lot of the pain and hardship that's out there. We get a chance Friday nights, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays to go out and enjoy something with our community. So let's start talking about our community, some of these great athletes and teams here in East Idaho. But really grateful for this day, for 9/11, to remember and to give back. Sean, some awesome performances this week. You and I had a little back and forth on who we were going to choose for our East Idaho Prepcast Athlete of the Week. But in the end, we decided to go with volleyball.
Yeah, there's every conference, every size school, every week's going to have someone who has a great performance. East Idaho has so many to choose for. I feel bad for the other Prepcasts. They don't probably have as many, but we have.
They probably don't.
Just lists. So it makes it hard for us, and that's why we get paid the big dollars. But
hey, anyway, it's front and back single space. That list is, Sean.
Yeah, we just have so many, and we talked about this matchup that was coming, and that's why I think why we went volleyball. Grace Lutheran versus Mackey, and we're going to go with Kirsten Kurse as our athlete of the week. She had 19 kills, 4 aces, 2 blocks in this 5-set game against Mackey, which Grace Lutheran and Mackey played a bunch of times last year, met up at state, starting conference playoff. Grace Lutheran gets that 5-set win, but Kirsten Kurse, 19 kills, 4 aces, 2 blocks. So, I mean, that's a ton of points right there between just the kills and the aces. But yeah, congratulations to her, and what a great performance from Grace Lutheran.
Yeah, and filled that stat sheet. And I think it's interesting that Grace Lutheran won, like you said, Sean, in 5 sets. It took the best out of 5. Grace Lutheran lost the first one 20-25, lost the second one 25-27, but then they won the next 3. Talk about that tenacity on 9/11. They kept going, they kept fighting, they kept pushing, ended up winning with 25-22, 25-22 again, then 15-30. I may have messed that up a little bit, those scores, but
it was
the end,
5. It was close.
Right. It was close. They won 3-2. They didn't back down. And yeah, that first conference win from Grace Lutheran, really impressive. And congrats to Kirsten Kraus, that senior middle blocker, our athlete of the week. So for team of the week, Sean, we're going to go over to not football, not soccer, not even swimming, but cross country. We're going to go to Highland Cross Country. They have been dominating the last 2 weeks, Sean, and they basically swept the last 2 weeks here in East Idaho, maybe even potentially a little bit of Magic Valley, Idaho as well. So back in August 29th, they swept the Terry Jones Invite. We talked about that last week. In Malad, the girls had 59 and the boys had 35 points. Well, this last Thursday, so a day after our last Prepcast, Highland Cross Country swept the Dam Run, which is at Lake Walcott, held in Rupert, out in Minico High School. The girls got 32 and the boys got 30. Sean, they improved from their Terry Jones Invite scores.
Yeah, just great performances from both teams. That's why we're going to pick Highlands cross country teams. I got a chance to get a little commentary from assistant coach Tiffany Smith. Well, Tiffany Smith is the head track coach. Obviously, all the track and all the running people combined up and work together at Highland really well. Usually have to see them later on in the spring when we're heading to Boise. And one time they picked us up on the bus. The Highland track team did when it broke down. So I'm always thankful for the Highland track team for that. But yeah, they just talked about how good their culture is, how Mark Van Orden, who's the actual head coach, has just kind of went in and revamped the culture and got a lot of buy-in from these runners, and it seems to be paying off. Like they're just doing all kinds of things. Senior Graham Johnson says that the team, that they're really all friends. So we don't just show up and run and whatever. They really care about each other. They're really excited. They're really excited for each other's success, and that's really a big part of what's going on with the culture with Highland Cross Country, and just doing great things. The girls they graduated 3, but generally had a young group. 7 are returning. They're doing very awesome. Junior Lee Ellis is returning varsity. She's running really, really, really fast. Also a tennis player. Sometimes very good. The boys, they only graduated 2, so 5 of the 7 varsity returning have experience. So they have a core of 4 seniors that are super good. They're being led right now by Cody Christensen, and just doing really well and really pushing each other. And I think that's in cross country is what you need. If your team can push each other day in, day out at practices and things like that, that's how you're going to get these performances. And and these have kind of been kind of smaller races. There's going to be bigger races coming up, right? We're going to talk about that later. Yeah. But it'll be really interesting to see how both teams perform against even a broader spectrum of teams. But congratulations to both the Highland boys and girls cross country teams.
Yeah, just dominating. And you mentioned Cody Christensen at that Dam Run at Lake Walcott and Rupert. He got a 16:40. He got first place. And then on the girls' side, the sophomore Brinley Knudsen got 20:42, also got first place. So they didn't only sweep in the teams, they also swept first place. And there were other East Idaho teams, while we're on the subject, celebrating Highland Cross Country at Lake Walcott at the Dam Run. Highland, Bonneville, Pokey, and Blackfoot were all participating. On the boys' side, Bonneville got second, Pokey got third. So good job up for those East Idaho teams. But in the end, Highland Cross Country dominated, sweeping Terry Jones, sweeping the Dam Run at Lake Walcott Invitational. And so they are our team, our East Idaho Prepcast team of the week. Sean, let's get into the recap from last week. We had girls soccer, boys soccer, a couple of games from girls soccer. Very interesting. Pocatello, who Sean, that was one of the teams that we were looking at the start of the season, one of the teams we were following. They started a little shaky, lost, I believe it was 3 in a row. Well, now they've won 2 in a row in the last few days. On Saturday, they beat Highland 2-0, which to me, that was surprising. And then at Sugar, they go up to Sugar and they defeat Sugar 3-2.
Yeah, and girls soccer, right? Of course.
Girls soccer, right.
Girls soccer, yeah. That's a team. The Thunder, you definitely have to keep a watch on. They return a lot of the girls from last year, and it's all very impactful. They play very fast. I think when they get the opportunity to play on like a turf field, a synthetic field, it really plays into their hands too. And they're just really doing really well. They did start off the season against some tough SIC opponents, right?
Right. Yep.
So, I mean, they did have some losses. They lost to Timberline, which might be the favorite. Barely lost to Mountain View 1-2. And it was 1-5 to a Timberline team. I think a Boise or Timberline high school are going to be the teams at the end in that 6A classification. So definitely the Thunder girls are off to a very good start and have played tough people to begin with. So, as you get into conference play and stuff, they've been battle tested already this early.
Yeah, absolutely. And that Highland game that they won, both their goals were scored in the second half by Ari Gonzalez and then Haley Poole. Shout out to the Poole family, friends of mine. Justin Poole played hoops with them a little bit, but they both scored in that second half. So 0-0, second half comes and Pokey starts playing maybe a little. They started playing a little faster and got Ari and Haley shots into the net. So good job by Pokey Thunder girls soccer for getting those 2 victories. And like you said, they're on a good start. Let's do boys soccer, Sean. Your boys out in Century, they also handed a loss to Sugar, who a week ago we were shouting out as not having lost much, dominating in all facets of soccer. And now not only Pokey girls, but now Century boys handing a loss to Sugar.
Yeah, I talked to some of the players and coaches and Coach Rumiani, and said that's probably the best they've played all year. Rumiani said that Sugar is going to win their division. He said that's a good team. They fight hard. As we talked about, Scott Terry doing a great job up in Sugar Salem. And it was just a case of where Century kind of put it all together and played really, really well against a really, really good team. And Ammon Bitten had a goal. Peja Weed had another goal. We've heard him a few times. He's got 3 goals on the season. So yeah, a good job. I was just kind of checking out the Max Prep rankings, because that's what they'll use to seed the tournament. And
right.
If it started today, it'd be Wood River, the defending champions, 1, and Century would be number 2. But tons of soccer to still play, but definitely in the right direction for that team, as the Diamondbacks are doing pretty well. But the best part of it was when I was talking to everyone, they're like, yeah, we won, but Sugar's really good. So good camaraderie there, and a nice pickup game that wasn't originally scheduled for both teams that have on the schedule. Yeah.
And like you said, for Sugar, no reason to hang their heads. And look, this show is called The Podcaster's Curse, Sean. We celebrated Sugar, and the girls and boys both go and lose a couple games. But yeah, those teams are both really good. They're going to win their conferences, could even win their classification at state. Looking forward to more of that. But good job by Century to hand them that loss. And again, our guy, Peja Weed, one of my favorite names in all East Idaho sports, scored in that 75th minute. So good job to Peja Weed. And shout out to your parents for giving you an awesome name. Let's go into football, Sean. We had a number of games. You and I both guessed correctly our games that we chose as most interesting. Madison, Middleton. That was Middleton at Madison, and then it was Hillcrest. It was Bonneville at Hillcrest. We both chose Madison. We both chose Hillcrest, and we're both victorious, bringing you, Sean, to 6-0 and myself to 4-2.
Yeah, it was 2 good games. I think it was definitely for Madison Middleton game. It was both teams everyone's kind of looking at, kind of where these teams are, where they're going. And, it was a close game. Madison won 28-21. It was down to the wire. Madison's on a 3-0 start. Madison has a lot of hype right now, in the media poll. We'll talk about that maybe a little bit later. But Madison getting a lot of momentum, and a Middleton team that's had a lot of close games. So it was definitely hard to pick, but you kind of like it. But also in the back of your mind, I think if I'm Madison, I'm also like, oh yeah, Rigby, Highland. Hey, oh yeah, Thunder Ridge, who's off to a better start than they have been in a few
Right.
years, is
Much
also there.
improved.
So, we're doing good now, but it really what it comes down to at the end of the day is that conference play really to get your, you get your for sure chance at that state brackets. But, good job by Madison. And it'll be very interesting to see how it goes on when they enter their conference.
And then Hillcrest, defeating Bonneville 46-28. Tyson Sweetwood, Sean, that was so sorry. Let's rewind a little bit. Hillcrest played their first game in the new stadium, Westmark Bank, Westmark Credit Union, donating money so they could build that new stadium. So now it's called Westmark Stadium. Hillcrest's new digs where they're playing, and Hillcrest won their opening game, their inaugural game at Westmark. Really cool. And who got to score the first touchdown for them? It was Tyson Sweetwood, the junior quarterback who did awesome last year at state. Like I think you said earlier, Sean wrote his name in the Hillcrest record books with the first touchdown at home.
Yeah, he took a 16 running yard score in for the first game, kind of to set the tone. And, he was the reason I picked Hillcrest to win the game. I kind of like Sweetwood. I'd seen him play last year. He got in a couple of games last year. He got in at the end of the state final game. The thing was he had a big arm and it was on display, and obviously he's grown a little bit, can run too to get that touchdown. But, what a great game to have on this new field at your inner city rivalry. And all those games in Idaho Falls, when they play each other, they are all very exciting, and they all go all out, right? When you have all those different schools competing against each other. But, a nice job by Hillcrest to get that win, and a Bonneville team that is, has played well at times against Bishop Kelly, only losing by 8, had a difficult time against Madison, and was in this game a little bit, but Hillcrest pulled away, kind of setting that tone. So, Bonneville, another team, it's kind of, you kind of got to watch out in that District 6 area, when it comes down to a little later on, how are they going to do? But congrats to Hillcrest.
Yeah. So like you said, those rivalries, this was the Civil War. Hillcrest not only wins their inaugural game at Westmark Stadium, but also wins the Civil War. So congrats to them. Bonneville, they're 0-3. Is it time to panic for those, for the fans of Bonneville Bees?
I mean, I don't think so. You've got a first-year head coach. You got a program that's in some transition. You're in games and you can win games. I don't think there's anything to panic about. If you're not really in the games and not having much chance to win, then maybe that's where you start panicking. But there's still a lot of the season left, and like I said, that District 6, anything can happen.
Right.
There's a lot of turnover between Hillcrest and Skyline, kind of the top dogs right there. You also got a Shelley team that always finds a way to win games. So it'll be very interesting to see how it kind of pans out towards the end.
We also had a couple other games in East Idaho that were of interest. Pokey defeating Idaho Falls Tigers 35-16. That game was actually pretty close, Sean, until Pocatello blocked an Idaho Falls field goal, and they returned it for about 80-yard scoop and score. And from then, Idaho Falls Tigers were defeated, and Pokey stomped, ended up winning 35-16 by 19. And then Aberdeen, Sean, let's talk about this one really quickly. Aberdeen defeats Declo in surprising fashion, 8-0, 8 total points scored, blanked Declo for the first time since November 2020 state semis versus Westside, where Declo lost to a really good Westside team in a snowstorm at Westside. They lost 0-7 in that game, but Aberdeen blanks Declo for the first time in 4 years.
Yeah, I think if you had to predict, that game, I think a lot of people would have leaned Declo. I feel like, and so to see Aberdeen come away with kind of a little bit of an ugly win, right? But it wasn't because of weather. It wasn't anything like that. It was just a defensive battle. But Aberdeen, I can't wait to see Aberdeen and Westside play. I think that's the storm of brewing in that conference. I can't wait to see what happens when Aberdeen takes on Westside. Can someone finally solve that Westside puzzle? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, and I said at the beginning of the season, when we talk about interesting football teams, I like the entire 3A from the new conference to the Southeast Idaho conference. I think the 3A is fantastic. And yeah, you have Westside, you have Declo, but as Aberdeen showed us last Friday, anyone can win that 3A on any given night. So yeah, can't wait to see what we have, what comes next now that Aberdeen has upset the Declo Hornets. Sean, any other games from football that you wanted to look at?
It was pretty interesting to see the Dietrich Rockland game. I thought that was maybe one of the biggest games of the week. You had really the top two and whatever ranking system you wanted to look at in that division. And I picked Rockland. However, Rockland did not win. Dietrich comes away 30-26, but super close game. That could be a preview of maybe a state championship is what you kind of get the drift of that game. So yeah, that was definitely one of the big games, I think, of the week.
Yeah, 100%. And then we had Butte County defeat Cary by 40-20 in the Battle of the Crater. I love when these games have names after them, right? I'll be going down to Minico versus Burley. It's the Battle of the River, and they fight over an oar. So whoever wins gets the oar, But yeah, Butte County defeats Cary 40-20 in the Battle of the Crater. And then another game of interest, Marsh Valley defeated Teton in a battle, 39-35 shootout, if you will. But Marsh Valley came out victorious again. Well, that was more 4A, but 4A is very interesting there. All right, let's get into some golf, Sean. Madison Invitational, all 6A, 5A high country conference teams participated. But again, we were afraid, we talked as we were preparing the show that we may be a little Highland heavy, but Highland just keeps winning, whether it's golf or cross country or even football. Highland won the Madison Invitational with 352 total. All their players were in the 80s and 90s. Most other teams' players, Sean, were in the 100s. And then Idaho Falls Tigers got second with 383. So weren't super close to Highland, who wins the Madison Invitational on the girls' side. On the boys' side, Madison boys won that with a 309. Thunder Ridge got second with 311. And who else but Thunder Ridge's Justin Anderson, who we've talked about before. He won the individual for boys with 67. He was 6 strokes ahead of the next player. So good job to Madison boys and to the Highland girls on their accomplishments in golf at the Madison Invitational.
Yeah, Justin Anderson, he's probably going to come up as someone as our performer of the week. I think going on, he's done nothing but shoot scores that are, it seems like he's always below 70 or right at 70. So just a phenomenal player. He's doing big things. I think he'll continue to do those big things.
Yeah. And then our teams were also at the Minico Golf Invite in Rupert. East Idaho teams participated. Pokey, Century, and Preston. Mountain Home took first, but Century, Sean, they got second by 1 stroke. Mountain Home they hit a 311 total. Century hit a 312. So Century was that close to tying or taking on Mountain Home. And then Century is your boy, Liam McGee. He shot a match best 72. Who he would have won among the 5A players of the Madison Invite, just, as a little aside there. So good job to Century's Liam McGee, who shot that match best 72. And then finally, I failed to mention on the girls' side, Shelley's Mallory Hyam at the Madison Invite. She got first overall with 73. So Shelley's Mallory Hyam, she won on the girls' side, the Madison Invite. And Highlands Megan Merrill was second with an 80. And finally, the Twin Falls Classic at Canyon Springs Golf Course. It's that 16-team tournament. Thunder Ridge boys were first with 312, and Madison was second with 315. So East Idaho going to the Magic Valley and taking 1 and 2.
Yeah, it's tough. They talked about this a little bit on the Magic Valley Prepcast, how it was kind of big for Mountain Home to win one.
Yeah,
this is an area it's been dominated by Twin Falls in the golf world. Twin Falls has been good at golf and won golf since I was in high school. So it's definitely just, you see a little working in here. East Idaho is getting a little better in golf. And I don't know if we credit this to changing the weather, because right now, if you're playing, now we can play, but when these divisions were in the spring, of course, Twin Falls is playing a lot earlier than we are down here. And I think that makes a big difference in that transition. You probably played a little bit in the summer, right? I mean, golfing in the summer, and then that transition to where we're not waiting to play, because in the spring we're waiting weeks before we even hit the course, where like Twin Falls or Boise are out there earlier. So I think that weather change and changing to the fall has really benefited East Idaho to get a little more reps in as far as the golf. I could be wrong, but I'm going to throw it out there.
I like that. And I think that's a great point. Obviously, getting reps, you're going to play more. You play more, you work out the kinks early on, versus you're playing in the spring. You're playing teams that have already played 3 or 4 games. It's almost like the Rocky Mountain Rumble when Utah teams show up, Nevada, California teams, they've already played a handful of games, and we show up a little bit rusty. So I think that's a great point. So yeah, congrats to East Idaho for really dominating on both girls and boys golf. Not only invites here in East Idaho, but out there in the Magic Valley. Let's move into volleyball, Sean. Pokey girls, who we shouted out a few weeks ago, played Idaho Falls Tigers girls. I want to say it was last week. Very highly anticipated match. Idaho Falls Tigers is a really, really good team. That might be one to watch as we obviously get into conference play and then state. A lot of anticipation, but Pokey took care of business there, winning 3-1. IF won the first one, 25-19, and then Pokey the next 3, 25-22, 25-21, and then again 25-21. And then the Jerome Invitational, Sugar Salem went out there to Jerome Invitational. There were going to be a couple other teams from East Idaho. I believe it was going to be West. Was it North Fremont and West? Who's the 3A volleyball, Sean? North Fremont and West Jefferson.
West Jefferson.
Yeah, West Jefferson. There were a big accident, so both those teams weren't able to make it to the Jerome Invite. But Sugar Salem was able to get there, and they ended up winning the gold bracket. They swept both Nampa Christian and Murtaugh to win that. So congrats to Sugar Salem. And then Sean, why don't you give us the Grace Lutheran recap from Saturday?
Yeah, so Grace Lutheran, we were there. Couple of teams in this big Rocky Mountain conferences are playing here, playing there, playing a little bit of everywhere. But at Grace Lutheran, they played a North Gem and Showban, and Grace Lutheran won 3-0 in both of those. And obviously, beat Mackey, their arch nemesis. It's kind of like the Batman and Joker, or I don't know which one's which, but they seem to always be playing. But congrats to Grace Lutheran on getting a couple more conference wins and having those games there together. I kind of like that as well.
Yeah, I think that's great, especially when you have those smaller schools. Everyone meets together, and you can save on gas and on officials and all that stuff. So yeah, good job for Grace Lutheran shutting down, or I guess going on their win streak against North Gem and Showban. And then we got we'll finish with cross country. Let's go with swimming. There was an all city meet, Sean, and we promised swimming in the intro. If you get those previews, we try to send those out about 24 hours before the show. We said swimming also. There was an all-city meet at Ross Park Pool here in Pocatello, Century Highland Pokey, and Addison Fenstermaker from Highland won 4 of her 4 events. She anchored the 200 medley relay. She anchored the free relays, and then in her 200 and 100 individual free, she dominated. Highland girls got first thanks to Addison Fenstermaker's 4-4 wins. They scored a 439, and then Pokey boys got first with 462. So congrats to Highland girls and Pokey boys for winning the all city meet. And I saw, I believe it was Century. They were in purple suits, Sean. I was down at Ross Park for a middle school cross country meet. And they were still working out outside. I didn't realize swimming was still swimming outside for the foreseeable future until the weather gets too cold.
Yeah, I guess maybe the rec center in Pocatello is fixed now. I don't know. At one point there was no really usable inside pool you could do like competition for. So don't quote me on the rec center, but yeah, so this city tournament was done outside at the Ross Park swimming complex. Yeah. I feel like if you win it, you get to go down the slide or something, right? You know what I mean? In some tennis tournaments, you get the trophy and you jump in the pool. I feel like if you win this, you should get to go down the slide with your medal, or it would be kind of a cool picture to have. That'd so awesome. But yeah, congrats. Yeah, so they were outside, and hopefully we'll be getting some more swimming coming into us. Again, another one kind of difficult to find. It's not always out there, but if you hear some interesting swim stories, please let us know.
Yeah, hit us up on our Twitter accounts at Sean Kane 182 and at Iwan Educador. Let us know if you got swimming news. We'd love to shout out more swimmers, including Addison Fenstermaker for her awesome 404 achievement. And then cross country, again, finishing up our recap. Last Saturday, Sean, was the Cardinal Classic. Madison senior Brimley William won the girls varsity with a 1946. That means she's won 3 meets in a row. She'd won 2 before, and then at the Cardinal Classic won that one. So congrats to Madison's Brimley William for that another victory under her belt. And then last Thursday was the Valley Invite. Again, East Idaho going to Magic Valley. Ryder girls go out there to the Valley Invite, and they won, putting 5 runners in the top 10.
Well, that'll do it. I mean, you want to win a cross country meet, you get 5 in the top 10. You pretty much put the name on the trophy and get on the bus and go home. But yeah, very good job. Junior Lucy Boone won the girls with 2012 is her time, and yeah, nice job. I will say this, in talking to some other cross country people, I was asking, is Highland good? And everyone's like, yeah, Highland is really, really good. But they said also keep an eye out for Madison. I guess Madison also has some big time runners, and we'll get into it sure later. But yeah, keep an eye out for Madison, which obviously that was the case at the Cardinal Classic. But yeah, a lot of good running in East Idaho.
Yeah, love it. Okay, that does it for our recap. Let's go into the biggest matches of this week that we think are really big and then interesting. Let's do boys soccer. Let's see, we got Rigby at Thunder Ridge tomorrow on the 12th, and that's the first conference game for both those teams. We got IF at Blackfoot on Thursday as well, top conference opponents. Blackfoot at Hillcrest, more top conference opponents. That's going to be on Saturday. And then Kimberly at Teton. Those are 2 top 4A opponents, maybe a future state game, Sean. Which of those 4 games are you most interested in?
I think there's a lot of good ones that, I think Thunder Ridge is still the top dog in that conference. It'll be good to see what happens there. IF and Blackfoot are always competing in that. Again, I'll probably say this 13,000 times this year on this podcast, but that District 6 conference, when you get into it, maybe IF wins this time, and then the second time Blackfoot wins, and then they could play, each other 2 more times in the conference tournament. So, I always say it's always good to see what happens at the start and then look at the second half of the season and who makes the adjustments going into district play. So that'll be good. And yeah, definitely Kimberly Teton should be a interesting matchup as well.
Love it. And then girls top games. I chose 2, Sean. Highland versus Madison. That's actually going on right now, or actually, I guess it finished. So Highland and Madison, 1st and 3rd in conference so far, respectively. And this was the first conference game for both. So if anyone has an update on that game, we'd love to hear about it. Who won that game, as that was one that we were looking at. And then Sean,
Looney with a deep free kick goal. Puts the Lady Rams up 1-0 over Madison. That was 35 minutes ago. So that's from Highland Athletics Twitter.
Okay, so Highland wins then.
It looks like it. Yep.
Okay. All right. So Highland won that game. So that's the first conference game for both. So Highland takes the first conference game against those other 3 teams in the High Country Conference. I guess 4 teams in the High Country Conference. And then coming up again tonight, if anyone has any updates, Hillcrest at Skyline was tonight. Battle of High Country Conference top teams. Both teams have been dominant in their wins. Hillcrest is 2-0 in conference, 4-0 overall. Skyline 1-0 in conference, 5-1 overall. Do we have an update on that game, Sean?
I do not.
Okay, well, we'll worry about that next week. We'll highlight that one, but that's one that we were looking at for girls' top soccer games. Volleyball, we got the Thunder Beat tournament coming up this Friday and Saturday, hosted by Thunder Ridge, and I believe Bonneville. It's going to be at Bonneville at Thunder Ridge, I believe, and should be most East Idaho teams participating in that. So very interested to see how Madison does. If Pocatello is participating, how will Pocatello do? Those kind of top teams in their own classifications. Curious how that tournament will go. And then finally for football, and then we'll finish off with cross country. Sean, it's time. It's time to pick a game and pick who you think is going to win for the games. We got Madison at Skyline, IF at Century, BK at Rigby, Chalice at Rockland. You want me to go first, Sean, or you wanted to take the pleasure to go first?
Am I just picking one, or how many am I picking?
You pick one game and I'll pick another game.
Okay, I'll start off. I'm going to go. Yeah. Let's go straight to the top of the top of East Idaho, where we have East Idaho versus East Idaho. Let's go Madison Skyline.
All right.
This is an intriguing matchup. We have a Madison team that's off to a 3-0 start. You have a Skyline team that's always a program built to win a state championship. And, they're 2-1. I'm going to go Madison for that game.
Woo. Okay, sounds good. So I was going to choose Madison Skyline as well, but I will choose a different game. I'm going to go with Skyline, Sean. Based on past experience, you will probably win this and I will lose, but I'm going to go with Skyline. We're going to split the difference here. I think it's great. It's a great East Idaho matchup. Both these teams in the past, I believe, have been in the same classification, Sean, if I'm not wrong, like way back when.
Not that too long ago. Madison went through a time where they would go up one, go down, go up, down. They did that a lot for a while. So not that long ago, but definitely it's not an inner city rivalry, but you definitely get a rivalry feel when these two teams compete really in anything. It's, just a hop skipping away from each other, and the communities are very kind of intermixed between Iowa Falls and that Rexburg area. So it should be a good one. I'm not 100% confident. I've just, I think I've been riding a Madison train and my stop hasn't come up yet. So we'll see.
I love it. I can't pick Madison as well. So I'll go Skyline. I really like, obviously QB Carmine Garcia. I like Zion Crockett at wide receiver. They have a massive offensive line. I think they return 3, if not 4 offensive line starters with just huge experience. But at the same time, Madison, their senior QB Hazen Torgerson is doing great things with them. He's led them to that 3-0. They have a massive O-line with experience and size, and they have a stud running back and wide receivers. So this game, I think, is going to be really close. And I have a little bias here. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be doing that game on Friday night at Ralston Stadium with Jesse Richens. So looking forward to that one. So Sean chose Madison. I chose Skyline. I'm going to go with the other game. And that's right. I'm going to go BK at Rigby. Sean, game of the week. Rigby's coming at 2-1. BK 2-0. Rigby only gets one. This is one of only 2 home games all year long. All the rest of the games are at neutral sites or away. Rigby is fast. They're unlike any other team that BK will face this year, Sean, just because Rigby, or BK, that 5A conference out there they play in, it's not great, right? And I just don't think they're going to see the competition like they will see against Rigby. I'm going with Rigby in this one. BK's played teams that have been surprisingly close, including Bonneville, who's now 0-3. I'm going with Rigby to take the win here.
I'm gonna go Rigby as well, and mostly I think because it's home. You've got a Bishop Kelly team that also has a very great, just awesome stadium. Bishop Kelly beat Bonneville barely 28-20, and then last week, 20-8 over Minico doesn't jump off the board at me, but I also think
give me confidence.
I also feel Minico's defense right now is firing on all cylinders, and I think Minico is a really good team that we're going to see later on this season. But I'm just going to go Rigby at home. They don't have very many home games. I don't know if you've gotten to do a game at Rigby before, Joel, but it's a big deal. They got big posters on the wall. They've revamped that field. I think they're going to really want to, only having a couple home games, they're going to really go out there and play very hard against a traveling team. I wouldn't be surprised if this is close for a little bit and Rigby finds a way to get out of it. I think Rigby's kind of trying to find that mix between throwing it and using Amani Morel. And as the season goes on, they've gotten better at that. So that's why I'm going to go Rigby.
All right. So both Sean and I choose Rigby. I chose Skyline. Sean chose Madison. Let us know in the comments. What are we getting right? What are we getting wrong? Who do you got for game of the week? And then who do you think is going to win? And then we also have on Gate City game night, IF at Century. Both teams are winless. I believe IF takes that win. And then Chalice at number 2, Rockland. I say number 2. Rockland is chosen number 2 by the media. I didn't, and that's going to be their first conference game. Both teams are 1-1, but look, Rockland got a tough loss versus Diedrich. That was a huge game. Both teams want to start strong in conference, but I think Rockland wins that one as well. Sean, let's finish up with some cross country. Tiger-Grizz Invitational this Friday. Huge match. Everyone from Idaho is coming out. Rocky Mountain, Timberline, and then all the East Idaho teams from Highland to Showband, 1A, D2, or I guess 1A. Is going to be there at the Tiger-Grizz Invite. We'll have that on IdahoSports.com. We'll have a whole host of crew out there broadcasting the game, getting you live results, film of the racers coming in. First varsity race is going to be at noon. There's going to be 6 varsity races in total, including seated races, and should be a really good time. Sean, any runners or teams that you're particularly watching at that Tiger-Grizz Invite?
Well, I mean, there's I think again, like I said, previewed this a little bit. It'll be interesting to see how Highland stacks up against other 6A different opponents, a bigger spectrum of teams. So we're really curious to see that. I'm real curious to see Madison. I've heard a lot of buzz about Madison, but there's a ton of great runners. I just like how you get the mix of classifications, and someone you might not have been on the radar is going to pop out, and we're going to be able to talk about them next week. And the best part of it is you can catch it all on IdahoSports.com, and they'll have all those finishes, and they'll have previews and all the data and crunch the numbers. There won't be Brandon's brackets, but there'll be Brandon's baskets. I don't know. I couldn't think of another alliteration for it, but there'll be something. There'll be definitely some previews, a lot of great insight. IdahoSports.com will have it covered, and just it'll be great. A lot of good insight, interviews, and things like that.
And I'm really looking forward to Rocky Mountain and Timberline. They're going to be there. So I'm wondering, who are the favorites among those larger schools, Rocky Mountain, Timberline, or Highland? Rocky Mountain is dominant cross country. They probably win state. But Highland, we've already celebrated them. Highland's really good. So I'm really looking forward to those kind of Treasure Valley teams coming out to East Idaho and matching up in kind of an early look at potential state implications or state matches at each other. So looking forward to the Tiger-Grizz Invite. You can catch it all on IdahoSports.com. Sean, where are you going to be this weekend?
I'm going to be at that Century Idaho Falls game. Two teams have won, so someone's walking away from, walking away with a championship, walking away with a win. It's going to be the first varsity game played on the new turf at Century. It's pretty cool to go down on the turf and kind of, if you could see like old turf and the new turf, there's definitely some differences. I'm no turfologist, so I'll have to go to Brandon for that. But it's Century's homecoming. Century had a tough loss against Canyon Ridge. Idaho Falls was actually leading against Pocatello for a good part of that game, and then the wheels kind of came off. So both teams have kind of had the same kind of scenario. They're in it at the first of the game, and then the wheels kind of come off in the second half. So it'll be real interesting to see who can get through the windy road and come up with a win. But it should be a good one. Gate City game night. We'll be there live for all the homecoming action at Century High School.
Perfect. Homecoming week. All right. So good luck to IF at Century. Good luck to Madison at Skyline. I'll be on the East Idaho game night with Jesse Richens up at Ravston Stadium. And then of course we'll have the game of the week, Bishop Kelly at Rigby. And then, and all those games are going to be broadcast on IdahoSports.com. Of course, if you're a fan of Magic Valley or Treasure Valley, there are going to be games from there as well, broadcast on IdahoSports.com. That's going to do it for us here. Oh, and then of course, Tiger-Grizz Invitational at Freeman Park, also on IdahoSports.com. That's going to That's going to do it for us here at the East Idaho Prepcast. For Sean Kane, I'm Joel Richardson, saying be excellent to each other. Enjoy the games this weekend. We'll see you next week for another edition of the East Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.